Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 9 of How Well Are You, the talk show, where we are ending the stigma surrounding mental illness. Yes, one show at a time. Thank you so much for joining us as we explore all aspects of mental health. We leave no stone unturned here. We are fearlessly tackling every topic. So if you're watching the replay, simply drop a hashtag replay in the comments, and we appreciate you joining us even after the live session. I absolutely love this journey that we're on together as we are encouraging others to understand and have compassion for those who are navigating the complexities of mental well-being. And there's so many components to this whole mental wellness thing as we're going to talk about some of that. We're going to delve into some of that this evening. So go ahead, please go ahead and hit the share button because we want everyone to know we're here right now. Your love and support means so much to us, and we want to hear from you. So feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. I'm Cynthia Mobley Howell, your host and the founder of CEO, or I'm the founder and the CEO rather, of How Well Are You, where our mission is to empower you to achieve your optimal health, both mentally and physically. Tonight, we get the chance to listen to a speaker who caught my attention a few months back when I heard her speaking about microaggressions. So I said, maybe I've been living under a rock, but I hadn't really heard about microaggressions before her talk. I didn't know what it was. So I had to quickly Google it while she was talking so that I could know what she was talking about. Obviously, she was so good that um, the context of what she was talking about, I could, kind of understand where she was going, but I needed to know what it meant exactly. And she just spoke in a way that piqued my interest, and I wanted to learn more. So this evening's discussion is definitely going to be powerful. So don't wait, hit that share button now so others can also benefit from what we're about to learn. So I'm excited. I'm so excited that joining us this evening is Brittany A. Johnson, LMHC, a licensed mental health counselor. Yes, she is, with a private practice in Southern Indiana, y'all. She specializes in trauma, including racial trauma and EMDR, that is eye movement desensitization reprocessing. Ooh, that's a mouthful.
It is.
She is an approved consultant in EMDR, initially working with adults with severe and persistent mental illnesses. Brittany shifted her focus to juveniles and families involved with juvenile justice and child protection agencies. Realizing the importance of working with parents to help children, she then transitioned to assisting adults with anxiety and attachment related trauma. Brittany is also an author. She authored the book Get Out of Your Own Way, 21 Days to Stop Self Sabotage. And I'm sure she's going to share a little bit about that. And this book is to aid adults struggling with anxiety and trauma driven self sabotage. Through her work with Black American clients, she recognized the impact of, yes, that word, what we're going to be talking about, daily microaggressions at work, and developed skills and tips to help them manage and heal from these experiences. Y'all, I'm telling you, you need to get people on, share this because you really want to hear what this woman has to say. She also created a course for clinicians to better support clients facing daily microaggressions, driven to change our mindset and approach to mental health. Brittany founded Lifesaver. And I love, y'all don't see how it's spelled, but I like that, Brittany. I like that twist. And it's a brand offering a podcast, courses, and a private community for women seeking healing and growth from past trauma and hurts. And how many of you all know that we are dealing with that? A lot of past trauma and hurts. As quiet as it is kept,
Mm-hmm.
we are. So everyone show some love. Put that hand clap emoji, hit that love, the heart button or whatever. Show some love for and help me with welcome today, Brittany A. Johnson. Hey, Brittany.
Hey, thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you for
Yes,
being
I'm
here. Thank you
excited
for
to talk
your
about it.
case. Yes, yes. I'm very excited. Like I was sharing with you earlier, and like I was sharing with our audience, when I heard you speaking during the Black Mental Health Speaker Series,
Hmm.
Black Speaker Mental Health Series, however you want to those words.
What it was called something, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was called something. It was called something. I'm like, woo, this woman right here is talking about something powerful, some stuff that I've never delved into, and I need to know more. And you really piqued my interest because obviously I'm a Black American, which
Mhm.
means although I don't work outside of the home now, I wish I had known you when I was,
Yeah.
because you probably could have helped me deal with some of the, and I'm just going to say it just like this, some of the stank that I was
Yes,
dealing with in the workplace when it comes to microaggressions.
for
So,
sure.
Brittany, let's get right into it.
Let's
What,
do it.
yeah, what does that term microaggressions mean?
Yeah, so microaggressions has many, there are many definitions if you Google it, but to break it down and make it just digestible, microaggressions are those little interactions that you have with people, especially between white and black people. Let's just be what it is, right? It's those interactions you have where you walk away and you like, wait, when they just said you're smart for X, Y, and Z, were they saying it because I'm black? When they made a comment about your hair, my hair is different every week, is that because they really like it, or is that because I'm black? So microaggressions are those intentional or unintentional slights that you experience throughout your day when you are interacting with someone of a different race, and sometimes different race and gender. So that's the short, to the point definition of what microaggressions are. And they can look different ways, right? There's different categories. Micro assaults, which I'm at this point, I'm like, we're going to take the micro off because it's just assaults. And so, making it relevant, what we saw from that Montgomery situation a few days ago, that was a straight assault, right? We saw on camera that they, attacked this man, attempting to do his job. I think it has been revealed now that they were doing other gestures and other language even before this physical interaction. So that's just a straight assault. But when you think about it in terms of micro, what you are experiencing is someone just flat out calling you the N word, or flat out calling you, something derogatory, monkey or ape or something like that, that is rooted in racism. And so that's one type. That's what we call those micro assaults. And then we have the insults, right? So those are those ones that's just more about um, you're smart for a black girl, or you don't speak the way other black people speak. You're educated for a black person. Those are those insults, right? And then those invalidations are things like, I don't see color. And we've all experienced somebody that has said that I don't see color. In this workplace, we don't see color. Everybody's represented, everybody's welcome. Meanwhile, they're making comments about you only like chicken and watermelon, or they're making comments about you change your hair too often. They're making comments about, if you dye your hair, right, is your hair naturally red, can you really grow red hair? Those are all microaggressions that we experience, and we often don't know that we're experiencing them until later on. But our brains are doing something in that interaction. Our brains are really trying to figure out what's going on, because we're trained to see that if somebody is smiling or has a nice tone, that they are being nice to you, but the words coming out of their mouths are not nice. And so our brains take about 30 minutes to process what just happened. So imagine that all day at work, right? Every time you go to a meeting, somebody makes a comment and it's taking you an additional 30 minutes to recover and repair and figure out what just happened. Imagine what that does to your productivity. Imagine how exhausted you must be at the end of the day, at the end of the week.
Wow. That's heavy right there. That
Yes.
is heavy right there. So when you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I have a question that I want to ask you. So you said sometimes, or well, let me not put words in your mouth. Sometimes when the microaggressions occur, we consciously many times don't even realize that that's what's happening, but then somehow
Mm-hmm.
on the inside it
Mm-hmm.
we it goes in and
It
we
goes
do
in.
know what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
But because okay, and the reason why I wanted to clarify that, because the question that I wanted to ask, so say that we are experiencing a particular situation
Uh-huh.
where there's a microaggression. For instance, I'll use an example of, like you said, well, you're smart, or
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna say it, a black person,
Uh-huh.
and you're in the workplace, you're
Yep.
trying to remain professional, and
Uh-huh.
you already just got set off because somebody said that, and
Uh-huh.
your neck is getting ready to start rolling, and you're getting ready to go there. How how would you how would you tell someone, or how would you suggest to someone, or what would you suggest to someone, how they should respond when those types of statements are made? um how should we respond to that
So that
keep our
question
job?
can be, look, that question can be loaded because it really depends on your work setting, and it really depends on how comfortable you are with being assertive. But the one thing you can do is to make sure that you are speaking to yourself in a way that acknowledges that what you just experienced was a microaggression or was racism, and so that you're not gaslighting yourself, because that's often what happens. We sit and question. So that's the first thing you want to do, is to make sure that you aren't gaslighting yourself and you are acknowledging that what you just experienced was racism or was a microaggression. The next thing is, if you are in a position, which is often why these things continue to happen, because we're not often in positions to be able to make this kind of change. But if you are in a position to make this kind of change, then you do want to have the conversation with management, with HR, to talk about how can we make this workplace really more safe for everybody. Do we need additional training? Do we need other things? Because what makes something a microaggression also is the fact that somebody can explain it away, right? So we know what we're hearing and what we're experiencing, but that person, when they're called in the HR, can be like, I didn't mean it like that. I was just talking about because her she changed her hair and I like it, right? So at that point, HR can't do anything but say, well, he or she said they didn't mean it that way, and then they can make a statement like, well, don't make comments about their hair anymore. Well, then, that can go multiple ways. So there often isn't anything you can do in the workplace to change that. So unfortunately, we have to do a lot of stuff for ourselves. So we've got to do our own self-care plans. We've got to have our own rituals of what we do to manage what we're experiencing, to, again, not gaslight, not tell ourselves that we didn't just experience that. It unfortunately falls on us.
And you said something, and it's funny that you said it, because I was going to mention that before you said it, so I want to go back to that again. It's just like, let's use the example of someone who's treating you a certain way. And I'm not talking about as far as race is concerned. I'm just talking about the average Joe. They're treating you a certain way, and you're kind of tired of it. And you say, okay, well, let me step to them and let them
Mhm.
know that I'm feeling some type of way about how they're treating me. And then when you go to them and you say, well, you did this, you did that, or you did the other, and I'm feeling like this, and they'll say, I don't even know what you're talking about. And
Yeah.
then you feel stupid. Like,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
oh, okay. So you just said it, with the microaggression. So you go to management,
Mm-hmm.
go to HR, and you're having this conversation about them, whatever, saying about your hair or what have
Mm-hmm.
you. And then they say what they say. Oh, I didn't mean it that way. Now they could very well be telling the truth, or they
Uh-huh.
could very well not be telling the truth. But the point is, the bottom line is, at the end of the day, you did it and it's an offense. And so I like what you said. So now we need to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves on the
Mm-hmm.
front end. So when we do have these situations to occur and we have to address them, and it's like, I don't know what you're talking about, because it's basically what they're saying. I don't know
Uh-huh.
what you're talking
That's
about.
not what I meant. I didn't mean it that way. But
I
what
didn't
make but again, if you think about the definition, what makes it a microaggression is that it's intentional or unintentional. So even if you
exactly,
didn't mean to, it now has happened. And
exactly.
we have to do something with it, right?
So when it comes to the workplace as a whole, as far as us addressing it as a whole, not just Cynthia going to management and saying, "Hey, listen, they said this, and I that I didn't feel comfortable with that, and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't appreciate that." How about if 10 people or 15 people or 20 people or 30 people sit down and put their heads together and say, "Listen, there is a such thing as microaggressions. We know that it is. We know that it's happening. We need to address it." Is there, like, and we're going to come back to the caring for ourselves and
Uh-huh.
being proactive for ourselves. We're going to come back to that. But let's talk about that. Like, is there a reason or a way to even do that, so we can kind of like deal with this stuff on the front end?
I think if if you are in a work environment where they are open to making cultural change, then yes, that conversation can be had. There can be a training to provide people with what microaggressions look like, because in addition to race, people also, really face microaggressions when it comes to religion, right? If you see somebody with a head wrap or something, there's always someone making a comment, right? We're also seeing it with age. Oh, you must be a boomer, so you just need to get out of the workforce, or oh my gosh, boomer, let me help you do X, Y, and Z. So, people are facing it in those spaces too. And so you can have the conversation about how can we make this inclusive and safe for everyone. But where the problem I see continues to lie with companies is that it's such a big topic that they're having a hard time on even figuring out how to train their employees on it, right? Because it is one of those things that can be explained away. I see your face, and I think I have an idea what that face is, and I think I agree with that face. I just have, in my experience, it has been something that, unless you can narrow it down, which is something that I do, right? So I've been offering my services to companies to say, let me show you how microaggressions are impacting your productivity, and giving the information on that, so that then they can put things in place in that regard, because it's easier to digest, oh, this is messing with the bottom line, as opposed to we just want everybody to feel good. Because there
I
are
love
people in the workplace that don't care about feeling good, right? And it has nothing to do with race or sex or anything. It's just, I'm here to work and I want to go home.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I like what you said, though. Yeah, I love that approach about me as as an expert on the topic, coming to you, to your company, saying, "Here's what I do. Here is how this situation is affecting your bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I can do to help in that situation." Now, that's good right there. I love that, because, like you said, because they're about that mighty
Yeah.
dollar bottom line situation anyway.
Yes.
So if I come to you and say, I can tell you that here is a situation that's a situation,
Mm-hmm.
and it can potentially affect your the productivity of your team members.
Uh-huh.
So I can help you to address this situation so that your productivity and things can be much better in the workplace, and then they can say, okay,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I like that approach, like you said, because and you made a very important point when you said some people don't really care anyway. Just I'm just gonna come and do my 8, do my 12, do my 16,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, I'm out of here, whatever they do, I really could care
Yeah.
less,
Yeah.
I'm good. So everybody, even though they're affected by it and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes not even realizing that they're affected, you're thinking that yeah, you're stressed out because of the job or whatever, but you don't even realize that you may have potentially been dealing with microaggressions,
Mm-hmm.
and that's pulled you down like 10 more notches and you have
Yes.
no idea. But if
Mm-hmm.
there's this person that has come to the leadership of your company to to address this, and it becomes a thing where it's being addressed, then you don't even realize that you've benefited from something that you didn't even realize that you were that was a problem for you because you
Yeah.
just didn't realize it.
Well, and
Go
I
ahead.
think more people are realizing it now. And the pandemic did a lot of things, but one of the things that the pandemic did was allow me to even see in a more narrow space just how much microaggressions were impacting people. Because what I noticed was, and I had some of my clients bring data from their jobs to support so that I can kind of do a little bit of further research, and then I did some other research. But what I learned was most Black Americans who were in corporate spaces or high level spaces, right? That you're constantly interacting with, with white people or other people that are not of color. Um, Prior to the pandemic, didn't realize that their productivity was doing a thing. They just knew they didn't really like being in the office, but there was no other options. And then when we were at home, their productivity went up, their creativity went up. And then when they went back to the office, they started noticing a dip again. So that was what made me really narrow down to say I knew this was happening before, just from a trauma standpoint, because I know that experiencing anything over and over again that's negative sticks to our bodies. It's what it does. Sometimes we're cognitive about it. We can recognize it cognitively, but most of the time it's your body. So you got those neck pains, back pains, stomach hurting. Your thighs are constantly in pain and feeling heavy. Most people don't realize that that's because you've been in a work environment all day that's been attacking who you are, attacking your character. You're constantly checking over your shoulder because you know that they're looking at you in a different way because you might be the only Black person in that space. So you are already thinking that I must be the affirmative action hire, right? And some people again don't care about that, but there are some people that's being thrown in their face on a regular basis, right? They're being questioned about their credentials. They're being questioned about, their intellect or their intelligence. Kind of how we talked before we got on here about being from the South. There's this preconceived notion that Southerners are ignorant and not, there's no level of intelligence, right? So I really started seeing that happened when people started going back to work. Like creativity went down, the ability to focus went down, the amount of work that they were getting done changed, right? Like, but on the flip side, when they were home, their bodies were feeling better. Now they had pandemic stress, but they didn't have stress about doing their job. They didn't, and you can think about, I don't know what your work was like prior to the pandemic, but even thinking about what your work was like, or thinking about when you were in corporate spaces, what was that like for you?
I was gonna tell you that I'm sitting here having flashbacks because I haven't been out there for a minute
Mm-hmm.
since 2010.
Uh-huh.
But during the pandemic, I did work from home as a customer service representative for Home Depot. But and now I'm just doing my own thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sitting here having flashbacks as you're talking.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here having flashbacks. I ain't gonna lie. And see, the thing is, you said something earlier about depending on the type, in my own words, the type of person that you are,
Hmm.
how are you going to respond to these
Hmm.
microaggressions? And see, because of the type of person that I am, it was never pretty because I'm
Uh-huh.
already like I'm already got this, this wall up, and I
Yep.
already got my guards up, and I've always been like that. I've always been a rebel with the cause, as you can see. I'm a Black
Hmm.
American, true Black,
Yes.
strictly Black,
Yes.
and no
Yes.
question about where this girl right here came from.
I
And
get look, I get a lot of questions about where I came from, and I'm like, both my parents are brown. Okay, now we got to talk real about what happened to my great grandmother and on down of where
okay,
my color came from. But are y'all ready for that? Right? Then
please,
I don't ever attempt to say that I know the experiences of someone darker than me, because I do know that I come with some privilege because of this, right? But my sisters don't, right? My aunts and my cousins didn't. So I know what I saw, what they were experiencing. So I know what the privilege I have, but let's still don't get it twisted, right? I am still full Black American.
right, right, right. Yeah, yeah. I get
Yeah.
that. I get that. Exactly. So yeah, I'm sitting here, having these flashbacks and thinking of, because I would always, and see, I was like a one woman army when I would have to deal with this, because I ain't need nobody to advocate for me. I'm
Uh-huh.
like, you did it. So I'm getting ready to let you know you did it, and
Hmm.
we get ready to deal with it.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, for some reason, God just graced me, because it was so many times I should have got a pink slip. I
Uh-huh.
would do stuff, and I would do stuff and take myself to human resources and say, this is what she said, and this is what I said. And by the time she, meaning the supervisor or the manager,
Uh-huh.
got the human resources, it was already resolved, because I had already gone up there and played my case. I'm good at that. I should have been an attorney. Played my case. Be her.
Yeah.
you ain't gonna
Yeah.
get one on me. So,
Uh-huh.
and so it was very, like you said. And now I'm thinking, now you just made something clearer for me. In my mind, I'm thinking that a lot of times the stress was just from the task
Hmm.
that I was doing,
Uh-huh.
not thinking that a lot of the stress was coming from the microaggressions that
Hmm.
I was dealing with. Now, I knew that toward the end. That's why in 2010, when I turned in my resignation, I ain't look back. I'm like, I am so over this. These people
Hmm.
gonna make me have to catch a case.
Yes. And
So,
look at some of these other people that, around the pandemic and all that we saw some of these top CEOs are stepping down, and they're talking about how they had to take time off and they had to do all these things to rejuvenate themselves. And again, prior to the pandemic, we really didn't have language to speak to what was happening because there was no out, right? If you were the person that went to college, you got this high paying job, you typically had to move to an area where you were, really a minority because you're moving to a area that's probably a little bit more wealthy or what have you, higher middle class. We didn't have language to say and support what we were experiencing. It wasn't until we were able to step away from it that we started noticing, like, wait a minute, there's a shift. And then when you go back to it and you start doing process of elimination, right, then you start realizing, like, okay, wait a minute, this is happening because I'm in this space. It's not that I'm not smart enough to do my job. It's not that I'm not qualified. In fact, if we pull up the resume and pull up transcripts from college, 99% of the time, our scores were higher than the person sitting next to us. So it didn't have anything to do with our ability, but it was the fact that somebody planted the seed that we were only there because they needed to have people of color on payroll, and they were making comments at you to to let you know that that's how they felt, right? So that's the other way that those microaggressions were showing up, because you could probably think back to before you put your resignation in, how many times did somebody make a comment to you that was trying to remind you that you were not supposed to be there, or asking how you got the job, or asking what type of school did you go to, or asking different questions, questioning how you got somewhere when in reality you probably were 10 times smarter than they were.
Right.
I think about that for the neighborhood we live in. You know, we had a situation at my daughter's school, and turns out one of her teachers lives in our neighborhood, and she was just having the hardest time understanding how we are in the same neighborhood. And then I had to sit down and think about it because I knew what was happening. And I'm like, you know what? My husband and I make double what her and her husband make because they both, you know what I mean? Like that, she's a school teacher and I know what he does for a living, right? So we make double, if not triple, what they're making. But she really didn't think we deserved to be in this neighborhood.
So, and this might be like a little off, but I'm just gonna put it out here, and you can take it wherever you want to take it. You know what's coming to my mind now, because it came to my mind after I turned in my resignation, and I was struggling, and I was praying, and I was like, God, you got to help me.
Mm-hmm.
I would drive past my old workplace and be thinking, you know what? I ought to be sitting in the parking lot when she pull up, because I know what time she come in the
Uh-huh.
morning. These people who have, and I'm getting ready to make up a new word, microaggressed me. I need
Insulted
to be
you,
sitting
right?
here.
Yes. Invalidated you.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I need to be sitting in the parking lot when she pull up in the morning, and when she get out her car, I just need to walk up to her and just punch her lights out. Or I know that she gets in the office really early, 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 before anybody. Nobody's barely in the building. I just need to be standing in there when she comes to open the office, and just knock her lights out and just walk away and just go to jail.
Which is what microaggressions make us want to do, but that's also what makes it a microaggression because once you do that, you might feel better for that second, but now you got new legal stuff you have to deal with. Now you've got this new label that's being put on you about this anger and this aggression and justification for their behavior. So that's what makes it that micro. It's almost like, you somebody's pinching you, and then you turn around and smack them, or you turn around and yell out, and you get in trouble for yelling out. But the person who was pinching you is still standing there, like I don't know what happened. That's essentially what microaggressions are. If
Yeah, they
somebody's
didn't see
pinching
that.
you, and
Yeah.
then you snap, rightfully so, right? Because you got bruises all over you from this pinching, from being pinched. But now you're in trouble because you snapped.
Yeah. And
And the
y'all didn't see the
microaggression where
pinch,
she
but you
can,
saw my excuse
uh-huh,
me, y'all didn't see the pinch, but y'all saw my reaction.
exactly. And she can say, well, the pinch was because I thought I saw something on her shirt. So I wasn't trying to pinch her. I was just trying to get something off her shirt. Because that's the way oftentimes microaggressions are explained away. That wasn't my intention. What I was trying to say was this. So then it becomes really hard to prove what happened because with in HR and in the legal situation, there has to be evidence that something occurred and it has to match, right? But what's happening is this microaggression is huge to our brain and body, but this physical reaction we do is huge to their bodies. And people are always going to respond to the physical reaction more than they're ever going to respond to the mental part. And that's across the board with abuse in any type of situation, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so getting back to, speaking of the mental part, and getting back to what you alluded to earlier about us
Mm-hmm.
making sure we are doing what we need to do as far as our self-care, if you will, on the
Yes.
front end, because they're gonna make us look stupid because we went and we said this happened, that happened, and like you just said,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I didn't mean that. Oh, and
Mm-hmm.
now you just out there.
Yeah.
So what does a person need to do to equip themselves to make sure that they can stand the test of time,
Mm-hmm.
not snap out, not become the angry black woman or the aggressive black man or what have you? What can we do to make sure that we are arming ourselves so that we can go to work and
Uh-huh.
come home and still be sane?
Yes. So what we need to do is first things first is we need to be able to recognize what we're experiencing. So when you are in these settings, you have to start noticing what am I noticing about my body and brain that feels different when I'm around these people versus when I'm not? So that way you can start knowing how your body's going to react, right? The other thing that you have to do is when something happens at work, you got to quickly be able to tell yourself, yep, that's exactly what that was. Now, while I can't go do anything about it right now, I'm gonna sit this to the side until I get off work, right? Or I'm gonna just go ahead and take me a break and go to the bathroom, go to my car, go outside, and just walk around for a second and let my body and brain calm back down. And then when you get home on a daily basis, you want to be doing things that connects you to your blackness, right? So for me, sometimes I'll turn on an old episode of Martin Lawrence show. Sometimes I'm going to pull out a book that was written by a black author that shows black characters in the light that I see myself, right? In this strong, intelligent, free space. Sometimes it's music. The other thing I'm doing is some type of physical activity. And I'm not saying that you need to go to the gym and pound it out, but if that's your thing, that's your thing. But you want something that's just calming down your body because you got to get it out of your body. Your brain's going to do its job to block it mentally, but your body
Mm,
can't do that. So you got to more so
mm.
focus on getting it out of your body.
Wow. And speaking of, and thank you, those are some great tips. Speaking of your brain, I had never thought of it this way. So
Mhm.
speaking of your brain blocking it out, tell us some of the effects mentally that are experienced when we're dealing with microaggressions.
Yeah. So the first thing that typically happens with our brains is that we are questioning ourselves, right? So our amygdala, which is responsible for our emotional connection and memories, our amygdala is triggered immediately to think about what are other times we've experienced something like this. So then you got, a few minutes of your brain doing that. Then you've got your hippocampus, which is looking at your long-term memory and facts. So now your hippocampus is searching to figure out what just happened, right? Is this or is this that? Then you've got, other parts of you, sensory, everything is just kind of all coming into it. And so your brain is really trying to figure out what just happened. Because it's like, wait, did that did I just see? Did anybody else see that? Right? So your brain is doing that in real time. But then our brains by design will push that out as soon as it's able to. So typically it's about 30 minutes. It'll push it out and push it to the back so that you can get back to functioning in your job. Because our brains are designed to protect us from harmful things. So once it registers that this was harmful, now it's going to go into active drive to protect you. But what also happens though is that it is forcing you to block out that time. And so good and bad gets blocked out. So you might have forgot what just happened in that meeting. And now you sitting at your desk trying to figure out now what in the world did we just talk about? And what am I supposed to be doing for my job now? Which then triggers anxiety because now you're worried about performance, right? So all of this is just a cycle that happens when you are experiencing microaggressions.
Ooh, that
So I
is
laid a lot on you right there.
that is a lot because now I'm thinking, and we're going to go to a quick break, and then we're going to come. I can't believe time is just flying. It's just flying.
It
Um,
is.
yeah. When and this is what I want us to talk about. Start off talking about when we come back, because you said how your brain will block out these certain things. What I want to talk about when we come back is you're blocking it out, but at some point something is gonna manifest because
Uh-huh.
seems like you can block it out,
For
but
so
it's
long.
still there. Exactly. So when
Uh-huh.
we come back, I want to talk about that. Like, it's been blocked out, like you said, but for so long. And so now it's about to manifest.
Uh-huh.
What does that look like? And
Oh
what do
yeah.
we need to do? We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, that is what we are going to address. You
Let's do
all,
it.
we are listening to Miss Brittany A. Johnson. We're talking about microaggressions slash racial trauma. Please share, please like, please comment. This is some good stuff. We'll see you in a minute. Hello, everybody. We are back with Brittany A. Johnson, and we are talking about microaggressions slash racial trauma. When we broke, or when we went for a break, or whatever you want to call it, I was talking about something that struck me that Brittany said earlier about how we can, our mental, and she can say it in the terms that she says it in, how we can block out these certain things when we're at work, and the microaggressions or whatever we're having, whatever's going on during the day. But we are talking about microaggressions. So let's just use that. So we're blocking that out. We
Hmm.
know it's coming. We know what's being said, and we're blocking it out because we need to get through the day. And we're just setting it to whatever our brain is blocking it out because we just are not going to deal with that right now. So my question that I want to address is okay, we're blocking that out, but at some point, it
Hmm.
seems that it's going to have to surface. It's going to come
Uh-huh.
to the surface. We're going to have to deal with it. What does that look like?
Oh goodness. So that looks very similar to other trauma, and that's when it starts becoming that racial trauma piece, right? And so what that looks like is you become hyper vigilant, meaning you are constantly looking around trying to see what's the next threat. When is the next threat coming? Right? Your fight, flight, or freeze sense is triggered in your brain. So you are constantly on guard trying to figure out what's going to happen next. You're looking at everybody you meet and trying to assess, are they safe enough? Now I say safe enough because no one truly is going to be all the way safe, right? Especially if they're not, in that close bond circle with you. So that's what happens. So it starts to show up in like everything you do. You start questioning, can you trust people? You start looking at people in a completely different way that makes you look like you are being more aggressive. You start shutting people down faster, right? You shut down faster. So that's why when I said earlier, when you go home, you're going to do those body movements and you're going to do that connection, because that's going to be where you allow your brain to bring it back out and you do something with it so that it's gone and it's not staying, and you get prepared for what could come in a safe, healthy way.
So that word, racial trauma.
Hmm.
Talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah. So racial trauma is something that we are just now starting to be able, I'm air quoting, to be able to talk about more, because in the mental health field, there was a huge disagreement, disconnection years ago about was racial trauma something real. And many of us, myself being one, we have always advocated that it looks just like any other trauma. It's just this one happens to come because of race. So what that can look like is you've been called the N word. That can be a traumatic situation for somebody, to be in a situation be called the N word. What the gentleman that we just saw in Montgomery experienced, that's racial trauma, right? That could leave a traumatic, mark on him, right? So also experiencing microaggressions, on a daily basis for a long period of time can also start to make you again be hyper vigilant, again fight or flight being kicked off, looking at people in a different way, which is the same things that happen if you experience any other type of trauma, right? If you were a domestic violence survivor or intimate partner violence survivor, you are constantly questioning people coming into your life. The same thing happens with race. You start really looking at, are these people, particularly white people, Caucasian people, are they safe? Can they be around me? Do I need to be on guard around these people? And it makes you question everything around you when it has to do with you being away from people of color. Now, there's some other things I'm not going to lay on you that get a little bit more complicated, but just thinking about the other side of that is when you do have people of color in management spaces, they tend to be harder on other people of color. And what I'm starting to understand and think about is this another reaction to the trauma they've experienced?
That's a whole nother talk show right
Uh-huh.
there.
But that's why I said
Wow.
I'm not gonna lay it on you tonight, but that's
Wow.
something that also goes into this topic, right? So because we see that.
And then this person has to either tuck it away, or they're living with the fact that I'm in this position
Hmm.
and this is how I'm responding of my people, the
Hmm.
people of color,
Hmm.
and it's not right.
Hmm.
So I go home and either it's tucked away in that little space, or I'm agonizing because, and the thing about it is, it's not their fault.
Yeah.
Like you said, they are experiencing
Hmm.
racial trauma. And
Yeah.
it's just like um it's like they're it's just
It's a
keeps it
cycle.
just
They're
keeps
they're
on
they're
going.
dropping down. They're trickling it down. I told somebody once before, they always Reaganomics was all about trickle down effect. The only thing I've ever seen trickle down is the negative things. I've never seen
That part. In
right.
that
I've
order.
never seen the other. But we know that experiencing, if your manager's being talked to in a certain way in their meetings, they're gonna come and talk to you in that same type of way, and it's just being passed down. And the higher you go in a company, or the higher you go in these certain, career aspects, the more microaggressions, more racial trauma you're exposed to, because there's less of us in those spaces.
So, Brittany, how did you? And you may have said this early on. I don't remember. I know I didn't ask you, and you may have said it. How did this all come about with you getting to this point with the whole microaggression situation?
So it was some of my clients that I was working with. I had been seeing them prior to the pandemic for, things like anxiety and depression, and just, overall just not feeling well. And so when we start breaking down where they were experiencing the most stress or anxiety, it was the job. Then I break it down even more to what about the job is stressful, because if it's just a stressful situation, maybe you just go to another job, right? But what we were noticing, and the trend that was there, was that it was certain people in the job, not the task itself. So then, I also start talking to my husband, who happens to be one of the only black people in management at his company of like 1,500 people. I talked to my sisters who also are in these corporate spaces. I started talking to my friends who are in corporate spaces. I was online looking at different, groups, mental health and outside of mental health, right? Looking at these different groups, and constantly I'm seeing women talk about this. I'm seeing men talk about this. I'm seeing them talk about what they're experiencing. Social media, you're seeing people be asked, do they live here? Right? How many videos have we seen of of somebody white asking somebody black, do you belong in this space? Right? Those are microaggressions. And that was happening to people who, again, were what I consider high achievers. And so initially I labeled it about high achievers, but now I've taken the high achievers off, because it's happening anywhere you are the only one. It happens in academia a lot.
It's just like the plight is never ending. I thought came to me when you were talking about, and this isn't in the workplace. This is where I live. You know, I'm coming towards you and you get off the sidewalk,
Mhm. Mhm.
you can stay on the sidewalk, but
Mhm.
I just ain't gonna walk in the grass so you can have the whole sidewalk. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe you need the whole sidewalk, and so you figure you ain't. I don't look like the one that's gonna get off the sidewalk, so you just gonna
Uh-huh.
go walk in the street.
Yeah.
Is
So
that
listen, speaking of that, there's a woman from Louisville, Hannah Drake. You gotta write that down. Hannah Drake. She has a blog post from a few years ago about not moving off the sidewalk as a black woman or as a black person. When I tell you I read that years ago and it changed everything for me. I don't move off the sidewalk. I'm not moving out of the alleyway unless I got there second, right? And then I'm gonna, because that's just common sense. But I started looking and really paying attention to how many white people really felt like, as black people, we need to move for them. We need to cater to them. Now you could
yeah?
put that in the aggression, in the microaggression category, but I just put that in the straight up racism category. That's not even micro at all.
That's
There's
in your
nothing
face.
micro about that.
Right, in your face. Me and this one
Uh-huh.
lady, we almost bumped. We came this close to bumping shoulders
Uh-huh.
because I see, because when I used to have a running buddy, right?
Uh-huh.
And so if we're running on the sidewalk and it's two of us and we see one person coming towards us, we split.
Uh-huh.
That's just the thing to do. Cause
Yeah.
but now, so that's what I expect. If I'm
Uh-huh.
one and it's two of y'all need to split. So
Yep.
I'm coming up the sidewalk. It's two of them, it's one of me, and everybody's like straight ahead. I'm like, I'm looking
Uh-huh.
straight ahead because I ain't going to get off the sidewalk.
Yep.
Baby, we came this close. It was a
Mm.
hair. We would have bumped shoulders. I'm like, I guess now she wasn't gonna move.
Yeah.
She me. No,
Uh-huh.
we're not gonna do that. And so this is another thing about the trauma. So we deal with this, but it's like, and you talked about the hypervigilance.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing about it is, it's just always, we're always carrying it. And I'm not in here crying the black woman blues, like, oh,
Right.
but it's true. It's
Yeah.
true.
Mm-hmm.
It's just true. So, and when I watched the video, I watched the entire video from the Montgomery situation. And when I think I'm calming down and I'm gonna be cool and everything is gonna be all right, and because to be honest, when it comes to white people, I treat them on a case by case basis.
Mm-hmm.
If you act in a certain way, then that's how I'm gonna treat you. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna try not to judge you. But now I got to think about all of that. You see what I'm saying? You're constantly wearing that. Well, I got to be intentional about. Well, I'm not gonna treat a white person a certain kind of way unless they show me something. I always got to be thinking, and
Which,
this is
and
where
that's
it
a part of that racial trauma, right? Like that right there is a part of
exactly,
racial trauma. So,
exactly.
while I talk about this topic, right, and I train on this topic, I I have friends and family that are white. So I don't have any disdain to white people, and I always make sure that I say it even though I don't need to, but I say it because that's the other part of how racism, systemic racism, microaggressions work. If we're talking about it, then we are the aggressor, right? So it's like, nope, I
Mhm.
do enough work on my own on a daily basis to not need to constantly question what's going on and who's around me. I create a quick, short checklist that I have in my brain on how I check if somebody's safe enough. And most times, nobody gets past what I call my rated G level, unless I'm deciding to build that relationship with you. So if you are rated G, which is what most strangers are to me, I I don't give you any additional thought, right? There is nothing additional that I'm going to think about because I already know for myself if there's a situation that does arise, regardless to what we're talking about, right? This is just how I do my personal safety. I know what I can do to handle certain situations. So instead of me carrying it and walking around with it, because I can tell you now, it makes my back hurt. It makes my head hurt. It makes everything about me feel sluggish and heavy. I'm not giving anybody else that kind of space anymore. Right. So I walk through life now literally with, if something happens, I know what I can do to handle it. I'm not looking at somebody to see, like, are you about to do something towards me or not? I'm going on through. Now, and if you do something, there's cause and effect. There's a reaction, right? But I had to take that off because otherwise it does make you do that. It makes you almost shoulder check everybody you come near.
Yeah.
It makes you turn your face up at people that you don't even really need to give time of day to. It takes
Right.
too much energy to do some of those things. So you got to make you a quick little short checklist on how you know somebody is okay enough to go to that next level with.
I like that. I like that. That's just like the man that approached me the other day that I was sharing with you before we came on. You know,
Hmm.
he he, he wanted me as I was approaching, he wanted me to know, he wanted me to know
Hmm.
I'm one of the good ones.
Uh
I'm
huh.
safe.
Uh
You're
huh.
okay. And I felt that from him too.
Uh huh.
I didn't feel any hypocrisy
Yeah.
or anything like that. And like I said, the only thing, not the only thing, what I did say to him, because I felt bad when he said, when he made the statement about, he has a lot of black friends or what have you. And he said, I hate to have to say that. And I said, and I hate for you to have to say it,
Yeah.
and it's sad,
It is. It
that you
is.
gotta qualify. You
Mm-hmm.
gotta put out a disclaimer,
Hmm.
I'm one of the good ones. He
Yeah.
shouldn't have to do that,
Not at
but
all.
he was kind of like looking out for me, like, sister,
Mm-hmm.
I just want you to know I'm okay. You say,
Yes. Yes.
because at the same time I can walk two more steps down the next house and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
that's like, I don't know. Like sometimes if I'm walking and you know someone's driving towards me and one car may be like this
Uh
and
huh.
I'm, oh, okay, and they
Yep.
probably didn't see me until afterwards because I didn't know, and then another one is like,
Uh huh.
I'm getting ready to, and then I'm like, hey,
Yep. So the task now for you is to not pay attention either way. That's how you reclaim you. Is to not pay attention either way.
when you say not pay attention, when you say not pay attention, what do you mean not pay
I mean,
attention?
you're not gonna look to see are they waving, are they safe, or
Okay,
are they being mean, or are they
okay,
being, you're not even
right,
looking.
okay.
You are driving your car to get to where you're going.
And to me, that's a whole nother trauma because it's
It
like,
it
why
is. It
can't I
is.
just be, you
Uh-huh.
know, like
And
you,
that's because you've had so many experiences through the years that are stuck on you, right? So that's what makes it racial trauma. That's what makes it now traumatic.
got you.
Because now your body's responding the same way someone with PTSD from child abuse or being a vet, like now your body's responding the same way. That's that hypervigilance, looking to see are they okay constantly.
Yeah, this
Hmm.
is real.
Yeah,
People give black folks a bad rap, like, oh, get over it. No, you can't get over it because it keeps happening.
it
You
does.
can get over something that has happened, you were
Hmm.
healed from it, and it's not happening again. You can
Yeah.
get over that. But how you can't get over something that continues to happen.
You can't
Again,
get over, but what you can do is change how you respond to it.
okay, okay.
Because one of the things that systemic racism did a great job of, unfortunately, is making many of us think that we are inferior, because that's been the constant messages right from birth, that we somehow are less, we're somehow defective. So when you start really looking at yourself in the light that you truly are, right, you're intelligent, you're accomplished. When you start really looking at yourself in that way, it becomes easier to not pay attention to what somebody else has going on. Like I said with the school teacher situation, as soon as I sat there and looked at the fact of like, wait a minute, I know you're a school teacher. I know what your husband does. Financially, we're not on the same level. I know that me and my husband both had two degrees, but each, right? I understand what your degree is too, right? So once I started doing that, I'm like, there isn't a reason for me to feel anything less when I'm interacting with this person.
Gotcha.
And she made a comment about certain clothing, and I had to break it down to her. I said, listen, you have this saying, you have this mindset that people who wear certain types of clothes are less intelligent, they're poor, they're this and that. My master's degree didn't go away just because I put on a pair of tennis shoes you don't like. So once I start reminding myself of those things, it makes it easier for me to know, like, oh, I can move in this world however I want to. Now that doesn't mean I'm not going to be oblivious to potential threats, because I'm still, my body still knows how to react to those, but I'm not giving them energy unless I need to. I know who I am. You know who you are. Now it's just a matter of, it's time to let that be the forefront for you, right? Like, you accomplish the things that you accomplish, not because somebody gave you a handout, but because you worked for them.
This was so helpful. I cannot believe we are here at this point as far as time. I just because I could
Yes.
just go, I could listen to you all day long. This has been so helpful to me. But before I let you go, I just want you to share with our listening audience, just give us some last words about this whole microaggressions, racial trauma situation. And I also would like for you to tell us, how we can connect with you. Obviously, I have it going across the screen, but there may be other ways. I'd
Mhm.
like for you to share with our audience if you have any products, any books, any courses, or anything like that that can be beneficial for them. Just take it away and do your thing for a few minutes, and
Yes,
I'll sit
yes.
back.
All right, all right. So again, thank you for having me on. I could talk about this topic and anything mental health related forever. But as I've already mentioned, you want to make sure that you know how your brain and body is responding to these interactions, and you want to create a self care plan that helps you acknowledge what you're experiencing, and then give you something to empower yourself to counter whatever the messaging was, to counter whatever the feelings are, so that you can be the strong version of you. And so, in terms of connecting, you can find me at Brittany A. Johnson on pretty much all social media. I am in the process of creating a group. It's going to be a 6 week group where I'm going to walk people through 6 weeks of creating your plan to manage microaggressions and racial trauma in the work setting. So, if you want to follow me on socials, or go to my website and sign up for my mail list so that you can be notified when that happens, I would greatly appreciate it.
All right. All right. Wow. Thank you so much, Brittany. This has been absolutely amazing. And one of the things that I've taken from it, and I hope all of you have really listened. I'm going to go back and listen as I always do, because I want to make sure I absorb everything that you've said. And if any of you out there need to go back and listen, please do.
Mhm.
Please listen to the replay. Give us some feedback. Let us know your thoughts. One of the things, one of my takeaways is when you said, and that's why I wanted to make sure I understood, because sometimes we can assume things, but I wanted to make sure I understood when I was talking about my microaggression situations in the division. You said don't pay them any attention, and that's something that I've been doing. I just look straight ahead. I'm like, if they
Uh-huh.
speak, they speak. If they don't, they don't.
Yeah.
And that is helpful for me. That way, I'm not continuing to relive this trauma
Uh-huh.
over and over again. Because okay, now they've been. Because I've had times when I'm thinking they're speaking, but they're actually getting ready to push their garage door open. I thought they were waving. I'm like, oh, they were just opening their garage. They weren't
Yeah.
speaking. And so anyway,
It
yeah.
happens. It happens.
Yeah. So,
Yes.
but I just want to thank you so much, Brittany, for coming on and sharing. I have been so enlightened. Again, I cannot wait
Thank
to go
you.
back and watch the replay. Yeah,
Yes.
you are just so full of it, and we're full of good stuff. And I'm definitely going to be reaching out back out to you, because I have something in the back of my mind that
Okay.
I've been planning. So I'm going to be in touch, because I
Okay.
want you to be a part of that. I want you to be a
Definitely.
part of that. So, ladies and gentlemen, you have been listening to Ms. Brittany A. Johnson, licensed mental health counselor. Do I
Yes.
have that right?
Uh-huh.
And among other things, she talked about her social media pages, which are scrolling across the screen right now. I'm not sure if I put the website up, but you can go to her social media pages, and I'm pretty sure they'll take you at some point. to her
Yes.
website.
It's all
So
Brittany A. Johnson. So
there you
just
go. You
type
made
that
it
in,
real
right?
easy. You ain't gotta go here, there, there. Where some Brittany A. Johnson over here,
Uh-huh.
Brittany P. and she the girl over here, and Miss
Yeah.
Brittany
Nope.
over there. She is Brittany A. Johnson across the board, ladies and
Yes.
gentlemen. Brittany A. Johnson.
And send this
Good.
to your management if you know that your company might need can benefit from learning how this is impacting productivity and what to do. Send my information to those to your leaders as well. I will come and do a training.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Y'all heard that right. Okay, just making sure.
Uh-huh.
Brittany, it has been an honor. It's been a privilege. And like I said, I'm going to be reaching back out to you because I have something on my mind and I definitely want you to be a part of it. Thank you so much for coming and sharing a wealth of knowledge. And I know we could be here for 2 or 3
Yes.
more hours. And I thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Cynthia Mobley Howell, your host of How Well Are You, the talk show, where we are ending the stigma surrounding mental illness one show at a time. And like I said, we tackle every topic. So you just going to get it all when you come here. You're just going to get it all. We want you to tune in next week at the same time. We have another very, very exciting guest who's going to be with us sharing. But in the meantime, in between time, stay well. Peace.